I spent so long thinking I had to fight this by myself. But I can stand here today because y'all stood with me. Because you stood with me.
We got you. Always.
That's right, man.
I ain't alone anymore.
No, you're not. Touch. Good.
Good evening, happy Friday, and welcome to another episode of the Hearts of Men podcast. I am one of your co-hosts for the evening. I am the Uncle Junior, and I also go by the name of the Consistency Coach. With me this afternoon is none other than the son of Timothy here at the bottom, the available man. And right beside me is none other than Dr. Dwayne Dwyer, certified speaker and coach, also known as the Mindset Coach. Gentlemen, happy Friday. How are you doing this evening?
I'm good. I'm good. I cannot complain. I'm with my brothers this Friday, so you know.
Yeah, man. I second that. I'm good as well. Again, another Friday. I always look forward to these conversations, man. Sharing conversations with you guys, as well as with the livest chat and social media. So yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it.
Great to hear. Great to hear. And I see Gaddy is repping that New York hat. If y'all have been following basketball at all, y'all see that the New York Knicks swept Cleveland 4-0. But I'm a Cowboys fan, not a basketball fan. So I really don't care. But since he had the hat on, I thought I'd shout him out. And then he got a pink one on. At least you and Coach matching, so. With that being said, gentlemen, like Coach said, I want to give a shout out to the livest chat. Definitely appreciate everyone for being here this afternoon, whether you're in the chat, whether you're on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, whatever platform you're on. Thank you for being here this afternoon. Appreciate you being here wherever you're at. Go ahead and share it, like it, and do all of those different things like that. So the people that I can see right now on the screen, I'm going to welcome to the show by name is none other than the rebirth of Nick D, Crystal Everett, RBN, Robin Brower. Who else? His divine appointment. And I think that's it right now. And if someone else comes in, welcome to the show. Go ahead and hit that like button, all those different things like that. I am very, very excited. I'm very happy, very honored to be here leading the show tonight. But I know that even though I don't want to say leading, I will say facilitating the show. How about that? Definitely appreciate you guys. I'm already looking forward to you guys' perspective, you guys' point of views, different things like that, as well as any input that the chat may have as we go on with tonight's conversation. So again, with that being said, gentlemen, do you guys have anything before we get started tonight?
Energy, please.
Energy.
Yes. Sound like a funeral right now, man. Come on.
Oh, who, me?
Yes.
Oh, my bad, man. I thought I was good. I don't know. Once we get into it, here we go. All right, so I'm good over here. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, if you have seen the thumbnail for tonight, you will notice that it says, love them, but do you know them? And there's a picture of a man and a woman looking and gazing into each other's eyes. It also talks about a heart-to-heart questions that save relationships. So with that being said, I'm going to start the show off with short monologue, and then we're going to get into it. So some questions people ask early, and some questions people wait way too long to ask. Sometimes it's because life's busy. Sometimes it's uncomfortable. And sometimes we just assume there's always going to be more time. But then one day you look up and realize, yeah, maybe I should have asked that sooner. Now tonight, We're not talking about one specific question either. This could apply to relationships, friendships, family, work, life decisions, all of it. And let's be honest, some of us avoid important conversations like we avoid checking the check engine light. We know it's there. We're just hoping it fixes itself. So tonight we're going to open the door to this idea. What questions should be asked? Who should be asking them? And how do you know when it's already too late? Ladies and gentlemen, first question. Actually, before we get to the first question, we're going to get into a couple of definitions. We only have 3 definitions for tonight. The first definition for the night is question. So here's the definition of a question: a thought, concern, or curiosity expressed to gain clarity, understanding, or insight. Gentlemen, yay, nay, throw it away. We rocking with it for the base of the conversation. All right, boom, I like it. The next definition is communication: the exchange of thoughts, feelings, information, and or perspectives between people. We cool with it? All right. This one, what I was a little nervous about. The next one, I was like, well, I really want to see what they say about the next one. So let's go down to timing. Timing, the moment or stage at which something happens, is addressed, or is understood. What about this one? Okay, I'm rolling with it then. Did you have something, Coach?
Yeah, I'm more so okay with this one than I am with the previous one.
The communication?
Right, because
Yeah, that's how I was thinking that same thing.
the
Yeah.
injection of perspective, I mean,
Mhm.
that's kind
Go
of
back
like
to
saying,
communication.
yeah, that's kind of like saying water is wet.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Thoughts,
Mhm.
feelings, and information automatically includes perspective. I don't have
Mhm.
to add, and this is one of the things I talk about all the time. We have gotten to the point to where the word perspective is almost a easy button to say disassociation.
Mm.
That's your point of view. It's not my point of view. No, if it's communication, then it's an exchange of ideas, thoughts, information, whatever that looks like. To say it's a person's perspective is kind of like disingenuous. So that's why I say I'm kind of with this one. If the
Mhm.
word perspective wasn't in there, I would be good with it.
So,
Okay.
so and I don't want to hold up on definitions, but
No, that's cool.
Coach, you saying what you're saying, because I didn't know what the problem was. It just felt redundant to me. I didn't know why, but when you say what you say about perspective, I feel like it's used so that I can disassociate with your point, and so that I can make it as if there's another way to be right other than what you said, right? So would you say that uh, to be receptive is a part of that communication, which then knocks out the idea of perspective and accept is just the exchange of it? Because I think we can stop at information, because
Yeah.
all of this it falls into information to me, like my thoughts, my feelings, my perspective.
Correct. That's what makes communication communication. Outside of that, we're just exchanging, not even exchanging, we're just hurling ideas at one another, and there is no desire to have an understanding of what the other person is trying to say. When we a lot of times say perspective, what we're saying is that, yeah, that's what you say, that's how you see it. Well,
Mm.
that's part of our issue, is that we behave like the thoughts that we have running through our heads are infinite, and I don't need to take on any other person's, thoughts, considerations, points of views, things of that nature, because I'm good with what I believe.
Right. All right. So let's move down to the first question. So the first question of the night is going to be for the panel and the chat. So feel free to type an answer in or anything like that and be part of the conversation. So opening question for the panel and the chat. What is a question you think, actually, Paul, let me back up a little bit. So again, we can talk about this from however point of view that you guys want to take it. You know, whether it be relationships, jobs, all these different things, is definitely everything is on the table. However, comma, I will say again, on the thumbnail, there was a picture of a man and a woman. So I am probably going to steer a lot of my conversations and talking points towards relationships between a man and a woman, if that's okay with you guys. All right. So first question, what is a question you think people often wait too long to ask? Feel free to elaborate on the why.
You know, I looked at this earlier too. And this first question is because too late to ask. The hard part for me with this is questions are based upon a couple of things. What am I looking for? Right? Because now we know that there should be a baseline of understanding with relationships, right? But what may be a tick to you may not be a tick to me. So there may be a question. You get what I'm saying? So and I get what the question is asking. But the idea that it can be too late can be dependent upon both parties, right? So I kind of struggled with that universal question that can be too late. But
So all right, so here's let me kind of give you an example, right? So all of us have been in relationships, right? Previous relationships that ended and moved on to different relationships. Maybe those have ended, moved on, blah, blah, blah. But the thing about it, every time we got rid of or one relationship dissolved, we learned certain things, right? And as we move forward, we made sure it's like, you know what? I ain't going through that again. I'm gonna learn from this. I'm gonna ask these questions up front, right? And then sometimes things are real cool and things are fun initially up front, and we may forget to ask some of them questions. So now we've gotten into relationships 4, 5, 6 months, however long, and now those questions come up. So in those aspects, that's kind of where the question is coming from. It's like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I get that, but that's why I say because I'm pretty sure your marriage and my marriage dissolved for two different reasons, probably, right?
But if we go down to the root of it, it probably is the same.
It could, yeah, you're right, and that's why this conversation is I feel like it's going to be good. But so for me, it's more of the conversation more than the question for me, because my thing is I don't think we really, when dating, right, we don't have conversations about values and upbringing, because that plays a major part in a lot of the issues and hiccups that at least I've experienced in relationships. I'm a New Yorker, and since I left New York, I've only dated like Southern girls. Two completely different worlds of thought, school of thoughts, right? And so just the way we do household making a home, we do that vastly different. So I think it's just having that conversation about values and upbringing so that we know whether or not we come together, we know, can we make this, can we blend these and build a home together, build a family together without, and I know Coach hate this word, but without the compromising of what we believe or we stand for.
So like having, one of the things maybe too late is having the conversations about differences and seeing if our differences, see if we can work through our differences. Okay, I like that.
So I'm going a totally different route on this one, simply because at the end of the day, I don't. Well, let me say it like this. I think the question people wait too long to ask is the question to themselves about what it is they're called to do. We believe it should be about somebody else, but yet we don't have the answers that we need to have in our own personal lives. Therefore, we get involved with somebody else And then next thing you know, we're looking for them to kind of fill in the blanks. You know, what is your plan for my life or whatever the case may be? You a full grown adult. What do you mean? What is my plan for your life? Like that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So the question that I think we wait too long to ask is, what is it that I'm called to do? What is this thing that I've been placed on this earth to actually do? As a man, that gives me, like we used to say in the army, gives me purpose, direction, and motivation to wake up every morning and do that particular thing. So now, if and when she shows up, when she has questions for me, I have answers. Whether they're for her, that's for her to figure out, not my job to enforce it upon her. So it's not about the question that I have for somebody else. It's the question that I have to have for myself and stick with it long enough to come up with the answers.
Mm.
What's that other
Right.
question you asked? The one that you said we ask too often. Yeah.
I can't remember. I'm sorry. What is your plan for my life?
What is your plan for your life?
Yeah, what is your plan for
I
my
think,
life?
and I like that you use that question in contrast to what are you called to do? Because I think that question is a carnal replacement of what that question is supposed to be. It's supposed to do. Because and the problem is because I haven't asked myself that question. What am I called to do? So I accept it when somebody asks me what's my plans for my life, or I accept what's my plans for my life as the minimum, because I don't think many people know how to listen and hear from the Most High to really see and understand what He's calling them to do. We're so used to thinking I'm called to do whatever's going to make me the most money.
Sticking with the plan for the individual's life, I'm gonna go with, a question I think people often wait too long to ask is, what is it that I need, not need, yeah, what is it that I need, or what am I looking for in the relationship? So I think that, like Coach was talking about, what is my plan? What is the plan for my life? And figuring out whatever that plan is for my life and figure out how to put that into action to get whatever it is that I'm trying to get out of it, whatever to be in that relationship. So I think that it's definitely, you have to start with the individual. You have to start with whatever your plan is, but once you figure out what that plan is, what does that look like? How do I put this plan into action? So, and I think that's one of the challenging pieces, is that once I figure out my purpose, once I figure out my plan, how do I put this into action? What does it look like? And then when I'm in a relationship, what questions should I be asking? What should I be looking for in a relationship, in a spouse, different things like that. So, anything y'all want to add to that? All right, we're going to move right along.
In time.
In time. All right. So the next question is this: when you hear the phrase "before it's too late," what comes to mind first?
What?
Yes.
No, that's what comes to mind first. What?
What?
Before
Okay.
it's too late for what? Yeah. That's a vague statement. Before it's too late. Before it's too late for what?
I guess, like, if we go back to the topic, it says ask these questions before it's too late. So I guess I want to keep it open. You know what I mean? Whatever you want to go with it is open. Or even when it comes to relationships, even in a relationship, when you hear the phrase before it's too late, I will say this: when I hear it, it sounds like ultimatum to me. You better do this before it's too late. You better pick up your kids before I'm gonna divorce you. It sounds like an ultimatum when I hear this. So
Okay. I'll take a different approach.
okay.
Going based on the title, ask these questions before it's too late.
Mhm.
Before complacency set in, before entitlement set in, before comfortability set in, before normalcy set in, before all of those things.
Mm-hmm. I like those too.
Yeah. So the way I saw this question is kind of what brought me to pause on the first question when I say it depends on the parties, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because too late only determines if the question I didn't ask is a problem with you or with me, right? So if I don't ask you, hey, do you walk around the house naked? Right? If I don't ask you that, but you don't walk around the house naked, it's not really a problem that I didn't ask the question. You get what I'm saying? I try to use that because it's light, right?
Don't be
Yeah.
walking around here with that moo on. I'm just saying. What's wrong with you?
Please
Either
do.
one is fine.
Please do. I mean, please don't.
What?
No,
Oh my goodness.
but you get what I'm saying? Like, so before it's too late, I'm thinking, when I hear that, I'm thinking, hey, this is an issue that's about to either implode or explode. But either way, it needs to be addressed before it does, right? Before it explodes and blows up in my face. So I have to address it. I have to ask this question. But when I hear that it's too late for me, it means that I see the thing coming before it hits. And so that's why I had a question, issue when it says, what questions do we hold on to often until it's too late? Well, it's like, I don't know it's too late because I didn't know that was an issue, and that's why I hope that makes sense what I'm saying.
I will tie it back to my first statement, right? Because if I don't ask myself that difficult question and wait long enough for an answer, then without that answer, I am creating a foundation of purposeless. I'm creating a foundation that has no direction. I'm creating a foundation to where we have no utilitarian value to our community and to our culture. So ideally, now I did not ask that question, what am I called to do? Therefore, now I've decided to get married. And at the end of the day, we serve absolutely nobody but ourselves. And we live in this little bubble, happy go lucky and dumbfounded, living every day flying by the seat of our pants. But we have no purpose, we have no direction, no motivation. And then by that time, after we set into our routines, it's kind of a little late to ask that question, right? Then you get the answer to it, and now you're trying to change gears. And what ends up happening is that your spouse is struggling with that change because that spouse that you've elected to marry was never that person that was designed to be your help meet.
Okay. I have zero pushback on any of all of that. To kind of go into more detail about my perspective and the whole ultimatum thing, it just kind of seems like definitely to like what Gaddy said, it's like you already kind of know, you know what I mean, ahead of time, so it's like it's almost like prevention mode, or there's keys there, or there are things there that may sometimes want to address before, because you already know how they turn out before it's too late. And I'm gonna say before it's too late could be the end of the relationship, the end of the marriage, right? So during the marriage, we saw certain things, we saw conflicts in the relationships, we saw like, you know what, you know maybe I should ask her, what she thinks about, raising the kids before we get married. You know what I'm saying? What are her thoughts on this? You know what I'm saying? But that's one of the questions I believe is not asked early enough. And we often not even ask, but we find ourselves in a situation once we are with someone and we have two differences of opinion when it comes to raising the kids. That's just my thought process on some of the before it's too late stuff. And at least in my thought process right now. But what we're going to do is we're going to transition. We're going to put up a poll, and then while we putting up the poll, we're going to put up another question. We're going to answer the question and give all of you guys in the chat a few minutes to answer the poll, and then after the question, we'll come back to it. So, with that being said, the first poll question or the poll question of the night is this: who do you think avoids difficult questions the most? And again, this is just your opinion. There's no right or wrong question, right or wrong answer is just an opinion. Or feel free to add your own opinion at the bottom if you choose to do so. So, with that being said, the next question is this. While you guys answer that poll, the next question is this: do you think certain questions apply to everybody, or do you think different people need different conversations? And what I mean by this is, like, when we're talking about relationships, like we may be talking about relationships between a man and woman right now. So do you think that there are certain questions that apply to everybody, or do you think, they're more specific, or that different people need different conversations? So that's where this question is coming from.
So I believe both are true. I believe that there are questions, but I go back to the conversations. I believe that there are conversations that we all should have, right? Someone talked about, what's your relationship like with the Most High? Like that's a conversation, and even to the point of how do I want to phrase it? Even to the point of let's just even talking about like denominations. Like you have 13,000 denominations, right? Even if you identify as a Christian, like there are some denominations, and people may think that, as long as you believe this, and this, I'm good. But there's some denomination that's so vastly different, right? That it is almost as if we believe two different things. So how do we exist? And because I think we take too lightly the confusion we put on children when we bring children into a home with two different religions. When we're trying to raise children with standards, we're trying to build a home. Like what do our family look like? Because to me it looks like confusion, but that's me, right? And so I think those conversations about belief, about values, about upbringing, right? Those things are important. About money, right? Money management, not just about how much money you make, right? It's money management. I think those conversations need to be had, period. But then I think that there are questions that develop in the conversation depending upon as you learn the person, right? And then even to Coach's first point, like even as I learn that person, I have to go back and now ask myself some questions about whether or not I'm able, if I'm able to engage in a relationship, a sustainable relationship, based upon what I see or what I've observed.
I'm looking at the question again, or looking for the question. Because thank you. Do you think certain questions apply to everybody? Yes. Or do different people need different conversations? No. I think they may need different approaches to conversations. I think sometimes we think people are fragile. We think they'll break if we have difficult conversations. And so I got to like tiptoe my way into it. So I don't think questions are particular to people. I think questions are good for people. Challenging what a person thinks is a good thing. Conversations are good for people that allow them to develop certain thoughts that they have or consider different ways of thinking outside of how they thought previously. So I would have to say yes and yes. Do you think that certain questions apply to everybody? Yes. I believe questions apply to everybody, period, not necessarily certain. Do different people need different conversations? I don't think so, but that's just me. Like I said, I think they need different approaches because some people have different levels of receptivity.
I think that do certain questions apply to everybody? I think overall, yes. I think as an umbrella, yes. But however, or do different people need different conversations? I'm kind of maybe more aligned with Gaddy and saying yes. And here's what I mean by that. When I say that is, I believe that if we're in a relationship, we need to have a conversation about finances. That's the overall umbrella, and as far as we need to ask certain questions. But I think that depending on the relationship, I mean, not relationship, but depending on how the money comes in, what they have going on in their life, I think the details or the conversation is going to look different from my marriage, my relationship to yours. But I think that there are certain questions that we all need to have. Like we need to talk about when we get off of, when and if, we decide that we're no longer going to work or we're no longer going to be punching the clock, how are we going to have money coming in when we get to that certain age? I think we need to have that conversation. I think depending on how Coach and me and Gaddy got our money coming in and what we've been doing up until this time is going to dictate a different level of conversation. So I may be in the line with Gaddy. I may be in the line with Coach. I don't know. It don't really matter. But I do think that there are some base questions and conversations that we do need to have. But I think when we get down to specifics, they may look a little bit different depending on the relationship. Now, let's get back to this poll. So the poll question was this: who do you think avoids difficult questions the most? Or you can feel free to add your own. So we had some parents, we had friends, spouses, and young adults, and it looks like the parents had the most. So I don't know what you guys chose or if anybody chose something different. But I am looking to see if somebody chose something different. I don't know if I missed it or not, but I don't really see anything. So we didn't have it. Do we have a different one?
Yeah, someone put something in there, and they tagged you. I think it was his Divine.
Mm-hmm. Let me say, put me in, Coach. It was a good one.
She said, I answered people, but for the poll, she answered number 2.
So just people in general, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, parents. I want to know what y'all choose? And if you guys feel free to elaborate on why you think. Because I like the friends. I was kind of rocking with the friends one, but what y'all think?
For the sake of the poll, I chose friend because nobody chose friend yet. I don't think nobody's exempt.
Yeah. I don't think nobody's exempt. I just chose based on my experience. I know it's harder to have more difficult conversations depending on the conversation, but with my children as a parent, there's certain things I'm not ready for the answer for, and I'm hoping that they answer one way, but there's a chance that they answer the other way. So, and it's not that I don't ask the questions, but I think as parents, I think sometimes we're more nervous or afraid to engage in certain conversations with our children. Not all parents. I ain't said all. I know Coach busting the door. Boom. What you doing?
Who you got in that closet? Who you got in that closet? I'm joking.
I see all of them. I can rock with all of them. I think, when it comes to parents, I can see parents not wanting to ask questions, but I think it depends on where you are in your parenting. Me, my oldest is 31. I'm 50. So there ain't really too many questions that's really off the table.
Yeah.
But when they were younger, there really wasn't too many questions that was off the table. There was some that was a little bit more challenging and I guess kind of difficult question because I may not necessarily really wanted to know the answer, but I definitely can see how parents struggle with that. Some parents. I definitely see the friends one. I think that sometimes the people that are looked at as friends and call each other friends are not always friends and they don't always, you know, tell the truth and sometimes avoid some of those questions for the sake of the friendship. And spouses, I think, definitely experienced that in my first marriage. Avoided certain questions, didn't want to know the answer. Um, and I can definitely see, working in education, definitely seeing young adults struggling with asking difficult questions. So I'm like with Coach, man, I can see it all. So see everybody struggling a little bit with asking questions. It depends on where they are in life. All right. Excuse me. Moving on to the next question, which is this. Definitely appreciate everybody's participation with the poll as well. And if you hadn't already, go ahead and participate again by hitting that like button and sharing this conversation or this video with somebody else. So what makes some conversations easier to delay? Easier to delay. That's the key. Easier to delay than others. Now, this may or may not apply to you. This may apply to the 19-year-old version of you or the 24-year-old version of you. So feel free to attack this however you want to do it. So what are some conversations easier to delay than others?
Comfortability, the ability to even know to ask the question. I think a lot of things when we talk about questions that are not asked or delayed, I think a lot of times some people just don't know to ask certain questions. But when I'm looking at it, I'm thinking just for the sake of the concept, I'm thinking more on the comfortability. It's like it's the reason why I chose parents, right? Because when you think of parents and you think of tough conversation as fathers, what's the first question we think about, or the first conversation we think about? Is having to talk with our sons about girls and about extracurricular activities, right? Right. But and y'all will get this right away. I get frustrated when I go in there to have a conversation with my son about of why you spending way too much extra time in the commode room by yourself, and there's a random sock on the side of my toilet. Brother, I'm not stupid. I've been there before. But I don't want to have that conversation because the last thing I'm gonna talk to my son about is that, you know what I'm saying? Like, but it's not that we didn't have the conversation. I know but it's not that I'm not going to have the conversation. It's just the comfort level of the conversation is what causes the delay. Any other conversation, hey, let's have it. I mean, we can have that one too. Just give me a minute.
Do not put that sock in the washing machine. Throw it in the trash. Fear, man. The answer is fear.
Fear.
Ooh. What makes some conversations easier to delay than others? Fear. That's generally it. Now, of what becomes the question? Fear of a particular outcome. Fear of emotional volatility. Fear of the repercussions of this conversation after the conversation is finished. It's a number of different things, but the answer is it's on Family Feud. This is the number one answer: fear. It is fear. That's what makes people delay conversations.
I like the comfortability. I was thinking comfortability when Gaddy was talking about it, but in a totally different way. I also like the fear, But what I went with is because I can. So some conversations are easier to delay than others because I can. And
Give me an example.
here's an example, right? I'm in a relationship with someone, and the young lady, every time she's always talking about, hey, I want to get married. I can delay the conversation because I can. I'm getting the milk. I don't have to buy the cow. I don't have to have the conversation about marriage. She's allowing me to stay in her house for free. She's allowing me to get whatever I want and live, do whatever I want to do. And I don't have to do anything. I don't have to have the conversation about being married. I can delay it because I don't need to.
Sounds
So
like
I
fear.
think,
sir.
and I'm not saying that that's me. That's not me. But I am saying that is something that I have seen, and there's something that I have heard about is that people sometimes delay conversation. And one of the things that makes it easier for them to delay it is the comfortability. They don't have to change their place where they're at. They can stay right where they're at and nothing has to change.
Sounds like fear, sir.
Sounds like fear.
Yeah, I was about to say my only pushback was I like the answer, but I don't know if I can't use that on every example, and so I guess that's why I'm where I would push at it, right? Because I can't say that about the next conversation. Yeah, I could push, I could, and even with that one, I can kick the marriage conversation. I can kick that bucket down the road only as long as the other party allows me to. Until there's an ultimatum, until
That's my
it's
point.
too late. So I
That's
can
why
only
it's
kick
easy to delay because I don't have to commit. I don't have to get married. I can just
It all sounds like fear.
and
I
people
don't
say,
care
"I
how
like
you
it."
change this conversation. We can call it
Mhm.
avoidance. We can call it comfortability. We can call it I don't have to. We can say, oh, well, I got to work today. It don't matter what it is. It's still
Mhm.
fear. Fear of the
I agree.
fear of an unwanted outcome.
I agree.
Unwanted outcome. I like that. I like that. Did I have any questions? I was just looking to see if there was any in the comments or not. I didn't want to miss anything. If I did, somebody star it for me. Moving to the next question, and this kind of goes back to something Gaddy talked about earlier. Do you think people genuinely know when something important needs to be asked? Feel free to elaborate on it.
I see coaches wheel spinning. um, I do think that there are some questions. When I first left home and started dating as an adult, I had very limited access to successful relationships or marriages, right?
Mhm.
And my godmother, her parents are still married to this day. You know, shout out to the birds if they watch any of our episodes, right? Um, but even then, like I just know how they operated while I was there. I don't really know what their ups and downs were, what the things that almost made them call it quits early on. I didn't see that. Those conversations were never had. So there's when it came to dating, only question I cared to ask was, "What's your favorite color? What's your birthday? What do you like to do?" These were the questions I thought were important because I thought it was all about me showing how much interest I have in said female, not about success in this relationship. So I think genuinely a lot of people don't have exposure to to successful relationships to the point that they don't really know what questions lays the groundwork for success.
Do you think people genuinely know when something important needs to be asked? Sure. But do they really know the question to ask? That might be the issue. I think knowing when, I mean, I don't, you can tell when something is off. You can tell when something is wrong. You can tell when something needs to change, whatever. But how do you venture into that conversation? What is the right question to ask? How do we broach this topic and have a healthy dialogue around it to where it does not turn into something toxic, to where it doesn't turn into something argumentative, or if for the worst part, divisive. So I think for the most part, I think the average person have, enough common sense to understand when something important needs to be asked. I just am not 100% sure they know the right questions to ask.
Yeah, I think I like that. I think that, I had a bunch of different answers going around in my head. I was looking at things like maturity levels, um, where we are in the relationship. But I think, like you said, I think there's a certain level of common sense, like when we're kids and we're thirsty, we have no problem asking our parents for something to drink, so we learn early on how to start asking questions when things are genuinely important to us. And even though it may seem like a small thing, it's important to the child at time to ask for something to drink, So as we mature into adults, to coach's point, I think that there is a certain level of common sense that we kind of know when certain things are off, and then we do have a certain level of, like I said, maturity as adults to know when something is off. So we do know when something important needs to be asked. I do agree that the context around having the conversation is important too. And I think in certain situations and relationships, it's easier than other. I think that in when you have a mature relationship, is not as much thought that goes into it. You know, where I'm at in my relationship with my wife right now, I can bring up a what someone would call a difficult conversation, and we can have the conversation navigated through it a lot easier than I did in my previous marriage. I was sometimes walking on eggshells because one, I didn't know if my delivery was going to set off an alarm that's going to cause more pushback. And then next thing you know, we're rumbling and tumbling. So it was a lot more difficult to have those conversations, and a lot more thought process went into having some of those conversations, because the way to navigate that conversation, because of our immaturity and us still being very immature in the relationship. And just like you said, Gaddy, not having some good examples of what good relationships look like. So we don't know how to communicate. So I think that um definitely the context around the relationship and how you have it is always important. I think I went way too long for that, and maybe just reiterate something that Coach already said already. So
No, but so I do have a question. Let me see what our time. I don't want to.
yeah,
So
go ahead.
because I'm and I do like how Coach put it. Because when I say that we don't know, genuinely we don't know what questions to ask. You know, I think the problem, and maybe I'm looking. I think the problem is communication sometimes on the other party, right? Because yeah, I may know that something's off, but I just know something's off. I don't know. We have so now does that become my responsibility because you walking around here funny because you have an attitude about something you refuse to communicate with me?
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. So now does that become and I'm asking, so now does that become my responsibility to chase you down to figure out what your problem is so we can have the conversation? Or is it that person's responsibility to collect themselves, come to me and have have the conversation, because I don't know what the issue is. I just know you in a funky mood.
It's the responsibility of the person who says that the relationship is more important than the two parties.
So as coach, I got to call him then. That's because he don't
I
want to
mean,
talk to that. So
sometimes
he's-
the other party don't want to be the bigger person. Sometimes
matter.
it's us. Sometimes it's been us.
And leave him in the friend zone.
There you go.
Hey,
It's
There
not
you
rocket
go.
science. Right? It's not rocket science. I'm just saying. I think we make things more difficult than what they need to be.
Mhm.
I think at the end of the day, the ability to have effective communication should be seen long before you get to the point of saying I do. If that person cannot have effective communication, honest communication, communication to where you get to grow and move beyond this difficult situation, that might not be a person you need to tell your life to.
I agree. I wish I would have known that then.
I was about to say the exact same thing.
Actually,
Thanks for
no, I
telling me
don't.
that now.
Actually, no, I don't. I'm glad I didn't know it then. It is what it is. Moving right along. Next question. This is a true or false question. However, comma, it has an explanation to go along with it. So, true or false, gentlemen, there are questions people avoid because they fear the answer. There's that word fear may change something or circumstances and explain. Maybe we don't need to, but go ahead.
I already did.
He already
Yeah,
did.
I'm about to say, yeah, true. We know, yeah.
Okay, well, let's move down to the next one then. So the next question is this. This is about timing. Is timing important to asking questions? Now, if so, how do I know when the timing is right? And if not, explain why timing is not important.
You want me to go first on this one? Or you got it? Okay. Does the answer change because of time?
Do
And
it.
if so, then that means that
Do it.
if it do change because I asked it 2 minutes later, that just means that your response was going to be based upon your emotions at the moment. But if because when we say timing, timing to me always connects back to the whole do we know when is the right time to ask questions, right? That means something is happening, or something is about to happen, or something has happened, whatever the case may be. If I ask you why did you do a certain thing, does it you answering that question changes? The reason why you did it changed because I waited 10 minutes? Or I waited till you had your cigarette? Or I waited till I'm just making up stuff now. But you know, I don't personally believe that that truth changes. So the answer is the answer. So the moment I realize the question needs to be asked, I'm going to ask the question. Now, if we're talking about on my behalf, if maybe we're saying, and I'm just trying to think it, maybe we're saying, hey, the timing has to be right because of my attitude, and I didn't want it to come across the wrong way. I think we grown. So ask the question.
So you saying, go ahead, coach.
You know, that's where I'm at, exactly where he's at, right there.
Mm-hmm.
We're not talking about timing, we're talking about maturity. The Bible says, seek the Lord while he can be found. You don't get to choose when to seek him. When you're in relationship, you don't get to choose when the perfect time is, because there is no such thing as the perfect time. So we're not talking about timing, we're talking about maturity. Somebody put in the chat, in the comment section, do I have a serious conversation while you're on your way driving home? I mean, you know, that's case by case, situational, depending upon who you're talking to. But at the end of the day, I prefer to have that face to face. So is it about timing? No, it's about preference. The preference of me being able to look you in your face, your eyes, and have this conversation with you right then and there. Because you driving down the street, Now we're having a serious conversation. You might have all different types of distractions. Now I'm putting your life in danger while trying to have, that's a maturity issue. It's not a timing thing. So I don't think it has anything to do with timing or what people tend to say the right time. See, the world will tell you that you have to have the right timing, but then the world also deceives you when it comes down to relationship. It's not about timing, it's about maturity. When is the right time? Right now.
I do like
So-
that. I'm sorry.
I hear what you're saying, and I'm not even pushing back. I just want to bring up an addition to. I hear a lot of stuff and I see stuff, and people say, well, you know, there's something that went down. I need to take a break from this conversation and I need to come back. Is that timing or is that maturity? The reason why I'm asking is because, I mean, in the military, Sergeant First Class Dwyer, if I needed the knife hand, I had zero issues or control and on the timing of when that knife handing was coming. And at the end of the day, it wasn't an issue for me because the knife hand came and I had to go on and continue on with whatever. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like I could go away and say, hey, Sergeant First Class Dwyer, I need a few minutes. I need to go away, get my thoughts together. And then when I come back, it can give me the knife hand chop. So going back to my question and applying to relationships, are you saying that sometimes when people need that break from the conversation or this ain't the right time to have the conversation, are you saying that some of that is more of a maturity issue?
That's absolutely what I'm saying.
I
Here's
like
the thing.
that.
You're going to get the knife hand because your behavior asks for the knife hand. I don't care what you say. You fist to get it because that's
Finna
what
get
you
it.
requested according to your behavior. So when I give it to you, that's when you're going to get it. You don't get a chance to take a break. This is totally different though, right? You're
Mhm.
talking about, you know, husband, wife, whatever that looks like, right? That's a different thing. If you're talking about a person who gets emotionally filled during the conversation, it is a highly mature act to ask for a timeout. Has nothing to do with timing. It has to do with understanding how I am in this conversation and I am no longer serving this relationship any value. And being mature enough to say, hey, I need about 10 minutes to gather myself because I don't feel like I think I'm a little full right now, and I'm not going to give this conversation the attention that it needs. I'm going to make it all about me, and I don't want to do that. So going back to your point, the relationship is still the most important person in the relationship because at the end of the day, that's the decision maker. Not you, not me. When I make it a timing thing, I'm making it about you or I'm making it about me.
Mm.
Yeah, it has to be a maturity thing. And before I say why, put this disclaimer. I love you, ladies. Y'all amazing. But the reason why I say it's a maturity thing is because but for real. And I don't even think the women can deny it, but women know how to push buttons better than anybody. I don't think men have mastered the art of pushing buttons like women, you know. And I don't know, I don't know the reason why. And so I know, and sometimes they know when they're pushing buttons, right? Sometimes it's on purpose. I want to say most times, but I'm gonna give some grace because, like I said, I love the ladies here in Empowering Perspective community. You know what I mean? They A1, all right. But anyway, but other than them. You know, women know how to push buttons, and knowing and men, we know that. Y'all can save face, and if y'all want to, but we know that they know how to do it. And the reason why it's a maturity thing because instead of responding to the fact that she's pushing your buttons on purpose, you walk away so you can get yourself out of that energy that you're moving into, and then you come back when you calm down so we can redress this thing because you're pushing my buttons and I'm not going to respond in hostility. Right. So for me, I think it is a level of maturity to get up and walk away for a moment. Not for good, but for a moment.
I liked it, you know, using, you know, the timeout, using timing, using those, different words to kind of separate the two. Cause I think sometimes we get those things mixed up. Even me, it kind of added a little bit more clarity to different things, because, certain things is lack of maturity and certain things is timing. And I definitely liked how I was able to coach kind of put together the whole thing. Go back and watch it, man. Boom. Let's move on to the next thing and kind of keep reiterating stuff today. All right. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to switch to rapid fire. But for this rapid fire, it's just going to be Gaddy only. So rapid fire, you only got a couple. Yep. Just you, brother. Nope. I want him. And then I want us to come back later on and talk about it.
I thought I did the last rapid fire.
Man, you got it again today. Because you from New York. So
hey, I got faith in you, bro. You got this. You got this.
I want you to do it because, bro, like I had this specifically in mind for you, especially the last one, right? So the last one, I'm really looking forward to this one, right? But all of them. So Red, you got a couple seconds, answer these questions, and then we're gonna go on. All right. So here we go. First question is this. Is silence sometimes an answer?
No.
All right. Next. Can avoiding a question still communicate something?
Can? Yes.
Okay. Next. Do people usually ask what they really want to ask?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Not right away. Let me say that.
Not right away. Next. Is timing more important than wording?
No.
Timing is not more important than wording. Okay. Next. Can one question change your relationship?
Yeah.
One question can change your relationship.
Depending
Okay.
on that question. Yeah.
Okay. Next. Do people regret the question they ask or the ones they didn't?
The ones they didn't, I would say, but if you don't want the answer, don't ask the question, I guess,
Okay. Next. Are difficult conversations easier in person or text?
Actually, easier is the word you use. Easier over text, more effective in person.
Easier over text, more effective in person. Okay. And the last one. Should every question be answered honestly?
Should, yes.
Okay. All right. Good job, Gaddy. Coach, any of these? Yeah. Any of these you want to come back to, Gaddy, to go back and talk about? Coach, any of these things y'all like, look, let's go back and I want to know more about this one. Any of them? Yeah. I was thinking.
I knew y'all was gonna come back.
Yeah, same thing. Can one
please explain, sir?
Yeah.
So I know everybody probably thinking I'm saying for the negative, but it can also change for the positive, right? If I ask a question, right, on either side, negative or positive, but if I ask a question, for instance, I have a friend who likes anime. He doesn't look like he likes anime at all, and so the type of women that attract to him. No, I'm being for real.
Like anime. I just want to.
He looked like he be on the block.
I got it.
I'm just saying, if you're looking for me, I'll be on. That's what he looked like. Right? but this girl he liked, but he didn't talk. He didn't talk to because he got to a point to where he's like, I need to find me a girl that like anime, because all the girls that he date end up not liking him when they find out he like anime. Talking, so mutual friend. One day she asks, anybody see this? I don't know what she asking about. I never heard of it because I don't watch anime. And he looked, the way he looked and turned his head, like that question alone triggered a reaction in him, and now he feels comfortable pursuing that relationship. Now I know we're talking about starting a relationship, but like I believe that we can answer a question that can turn someone off, and we can answer questions certain ways depending on the question that can make someone, like you more or more committed to what we're doing. Like, okay, I could rock with you because of this.
And see, for me, I don't think those are relationships. I think those are situationships.
Mm.
If it's a true relationship, a question shouldn't change it. That's like I'm very particular about the word relationships. And as I listen intently to everything that you said, you gave me situations.
Yeah, because I mean, I can give you. I'm just. This is a family show, man.
I got you.
I got
a lot of
questions.
people. Yeah, a lot of people who think they're in relationships, they're not in relationships. They're in situationships.
Mm.
So, depending upon the context of a conversation and or question, if it changes the dynamics of the relationship, then it wasn't a relationship. It was a situationship. One situation can change it.
I have questions. We're gonna be in the back office all night tonight. No, stop. I'm joking.
So I kind of got a scenario I'm thinking about, or a situation, something that I've seen. And
Please don't say the word situation. He just smiled because he already knew you was the leader, right?
Well, it's a situation that happened inside of a marriage, right?
Marriage don't mean nothing these days, bro. But go ahead. I'm just
all right. So here's the deal. They've been married for X amount of years. For whatever reason, the wife asked the husband, was he hunting? Was he out there cheating? And now the husband feels some type of way about it. So it changed their relationship. It may only be temporary. I'm thinking there's probably something that's temporary. You know what I'm saying? But it did change because he's actually not out there doing anything. But whether, I don't know if it's her insecurities, if it's something that she thinks she saw, heard, I don't know what the dynamics or the context behind it, but he feels some kind of way because he was accused of something that he didn't do. You know what I mean? So I don't know if has changed, but he definitely something that they got to work through because I don't know.
So what's the question?
I'm gonna go there.
The question is, can one question change your relationship? So the question was, are you cheating? And now he wasn't, but now he feels, or like, why? Like, where's all of this stuff coming from? So like now he thought that everything was good, but she definitely has a mistrust issue with him. So that at least temporarily for right now, like I don't think they're getting divorced. I mean, I think they're good. I think it's just something that they're going through. So I was just wondering if that something like that is that one question to Gaddy's point.
I tell you,
even though it's a negative, you know what I'm saying?
I tell you what one of those questions is, right? Yeah. Y'all ready, brothers? How does my hair look?
How no, you just lie, you good.
Yeah, if you lie, you good. Exactly. Exactly my point.
But then to the bottom question, should you answer every question honestly?
Right.
Listen, I'm loving all of this, but you guys are just further proving my point. You know that, right?
Yeah, let's hear
tenure matters in education.
Not in relationships.
Not in relationships.
No.
Situationships.
Right. We've deceived ourselves. We think just because people are married for 20, 30, 40 years, we think it's a marriage that's rooted in the doctrine of the Bible. In most cases, it's not.
Right.
It's rooted in the doctrine of what they've decided that they're getting together for, feelings, coping, whatever that looks like. Right. So how long a person's been married means absolutely nothing. If you have the capacity to ask me a question like that, and there is no relevant evidence that states that that's a warranted or substantiated question, then you're asking me from the seat of your own insecurity. Situationship.
Situationship. Oh, Gaddy.
So if she asked me that question, we in the situationship?
Situationship.
Man,
How does my hair look? I mean, if that changes, even if I give you an honest answer, and I agree, every question should be answered honestly. If you don't want to know the answer, don't ask me the question, because I'm gonna tell you the truth. Your hair look like a mop. I don't like that wig. Take it off. Go put some. Wear your natural hair for once. I'm just being honest. If you don't want to know the answer, don't ask me the question. If my answer changes the context of this relationship, this is a situationship.
Man.
Did well, Gaddy.
Yeah, you did.
That's a conversation right there. That's a conversation. That's a Friday night right there.
Which one?
What he's talking about right now? The
Oh.
situationship.
The
This is a whole
situationship.
conversation, man. Like, I got questions.
Even with this one. So back to your point with the rapid fire, should every question be answered honestly, even when it comes to the hair? I'm with it too. Like, look like a mop, like Coach said.
If you don't want to know the truth, don't ask me the question.
Don't ask the good right.
Why you need my verification?
Start off your question with "Give me the answer I want," and then ask your question, because now I know that there's a standard to how I'm supposed to answer this question.
I ain't gonna do it.
I'm not, but I'm making a point. I'm making a point when I say that. Like, I don't know what you want me to do.
Well, speaking of situationships or relationships, let's move down to the first scenario, which I will read for you, gentlemen. Scenario 1. After 4 years together, she realizes, she who is whoever the female is, she realizes, let me just start over. After 4 years together, she realizes they've never clearly talked about marriage, kids, or the future. Now she's wondering if avoiding the question already gave her the answer. I don't know what that question is, but I would say the question may sound something like this. What do you want out of this relationship? Do you want to date? Do you want to be married? I would assume that she never did ask this question, or that conversation was never had, and that's why she's in this situation. So again, I'll repeat it. After 4 years together, she realizes they've never clearly talked about marriage, kids, or the future. Now she's wondering if avoiding the question already gave her an answer. Feel free to talk about this any kind of way you want to.
So should I make the assumption that A, either the question happened, B, you have an assumption that the conversation is supposed to happen within a 4-year time frame, C, you're putting a shelf life on us getting to know. I don't know. I got questions. I got plenty of questions to go along with this. I think this is coming out of the school of Beyonce's style of relationship. If you like it, then you better put a ring on it. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry. This is ridiculousness at its finest. And for anybody who think like this, I'm sorry. I'm just being honest. This is, if you believe that within a certain time frame that you have in your mind that somebody should have proposed to you, interesting. My question is, where did you get that logic from? Who taught you that? I'm just curious. Who taught you that? That's my first space. Like, where did you learn that from? Because inquiring minds want to know. And I get it. It is. Please don't call it. I'm just gonna pretend like you didn't put that there, Robin. But I'm just saying, where did this come from? And I think when you really pay close attention to it, and I don't mean no disrespect when I say this, ignorant mindsets like that is the beginning of what we are now witnessing in the community as a whole. Because you have, it's almost like a corporate America stance on relationship. If I don't get what I want from this job, I'm going to put myself on the market and look for another job. I know it was a joke. I'm just saying. That's kind of like what that's like. And it's like, so in that time frame, because in your mind, you're saying XYZ, and since it has not meet your standard of XYZ in this time frame, you're going to create a problem that may not already exist simply because in your mind, your internal clock is ticking. Like his internal clock is standing still. I don't know. It's a lot of questions that exist here. But if I was talking to this young man, cut her loose. Cut her loose. Let her go. Let her go out there and find somebody who will agree to the 6 months time frame or whatever that time frame looks like in that person's mind. Because clearly they don't understand the fact that at the end of the ceremony, her last name changes to his.
I'm hanging out in that same arena. I think my route to getting there was going to be a little bit different, right? Because I'm not going to tell you what to think, but know that what you think is in your head is not in mine, all right? But instead of saying get rid of her, I was going to tell both of them they need to walk, right? Because if you're limiting him,
6, 7.
please, I'm so sick and tired of seeing these kids do that, talking about 6, 7. So when you did that, it just struck a nerve.
That's not what I was just saying. I was saying 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. But I got you.
I know, but that's exactly what I was thinking. What I was thinking in my head is my kids. When I 6, I'm like, go on somewhere. Anyway. But and the reason why I took that approach, right? The thought is one: if you're holding me and you're telling me 4 years is too late, then you need to move forward. Because for me, in this relationship, I'm not there yet. Right? There's a lot of women who left the man who was with them for 6 years, and then he got with another girl, and in the first year he got married. Well, that relationship was different. He knew in a year. But had he dated somebody other than her, he probably would have took another 6 years, because this is where this relationship is going. We're going at the speed of this relationship, right? And now I get it, because I think it was Lisa who said early on in the conversation, the world standards of relationship. So today in relationship, you're pretending to be husband and wife already. You already live with each other, got kids together, in the same house, paying bills together, right? Y'all playing husband and wife. Y'all just haven't made a commitment to the Most High yet. All right. That's really what's happening. And now because of that, since we're playing husband and wife, you need to put a ring on it so I can tell my girlfriends that I'm married. That's what I feel like is happening in this scenario, because I'm talking about the worldly standards, right? Now, if we, and it's kind of hard to look at when you say, and I'm with you, Coach, but it's kind of hard to look at how we do relationships and say, how do we get this into biblical standards? Because it is vastly different. You have to strip all of this westernized concept of relationship and rebuild your framework of thinking through the scriptures, right? And yes, I was thinking this today. It's crazy how we always call being righteous going against the grain. You're not going against the grain. Who's going against the grain are those people who's choosing to purposely go against the ways of the Most High. Is that doing the right thing seems to be like the wrong thing nowadays. That is crazy to me. So when we start talking about a conversation and we start talking about marriage, we start talking about how many years, right? We forget. How long did Jacob work for his wife?
Not only how long, but what all he had to go through.
And what he had to go through. Right. We ain't willing to go through nothing. The moment you make me not feel good, it's over. But he had to work for this man to get the wrong daughter in the first place, to work another 7 just so he can get the right. Like, are we? The problem ain't he didn't propose in 4 years. The problem is we put more stock on being married, and we're not willing to go through what it takes to be a husband or be a wife.
Can I sprinkle a little bit more season on that, sir, if you don't mind?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah. I would change the perspective of the entirety of it. Maybe you guys being together for 4 years is him actually waiting to see whether or not you can actually be his helpmeet. But we don't want to talk about it from that way. We talk about, well, you wasting my time. I'm not going to waste my time. But no, waste your time. So the time stopped when you were created? I'm just, so I think we look at things from the wrong lens. We look at things from the lens as though, me, and me, when at the end of the day, it's supposed to have been a we thing from day one. But maybe he was waiting. It has taken 4 years up to this point to be able to see something in you that says that you can actually be his helpmeet, because all prior to, you were just being whatever it is you wanted to be. Catching flights and sailing and living your best life. But in his mind, he's seen something more, and he was waiting for you to mature into that. We don't like talking about stuff like that.
To Coach's point, I stand up and applause to that, because he is freaking spot on with that. Because that's where I found myself at. I was married for 19 years the first time. You know what I'm saying? So when I found Shell, I was like, yep, I want her. But when I found Shell, she was young and I fresh out of a marriage. So I smelt like my ex-wife. You know what I mean? Not literally, but for the last 19 years of marriage, that was the woman that I was with. You know what I'm saying? So I had to get all of that off of me, you know what I mean? And make myself available to whereas ready to be in a relationship. And to Coach's point, there were some things that Shell had to work on as well. You know what I'm saying? This ain't no secret. Everybody has some things that they need to work on before they get into a relationship. You know what I'm saying? Because they're bringing their individuality and who they are as an individual person into the relationship. So you have two individuals who are coming together to try to make the relationship work, So I was there, I wanted her, and I was waiting. I needed and I wanted to see certain things out of her. She was probably waiting and wanted to see certain things out of me too. But to Coach's point, sometimes we're just waiting to see certain behaviors because we've already realized or maybe figured out that we want to be in the relationship, and that we're willing to be patient for some of these things to kind of get resolved or kind of worked out, if I can speak freely about that. So definitely rocking with Coach on all of that right there, 100%. But one thing I did want to say back to the scenario is that one of the issues, I think that if we go back to the beginning, she says that in the scenario that after 4 years together, she realized they've never clearly talked about marriage. That's the problem right there. Y'all have never clearly had the conversation. So if you've never clearly talked about it, then both of you guys' interpretation or perception about what you want out of the relationship have never been talked about. You know what I mean? So that's the problem right there. And then if you're looking at this and I would say that that's one of the things that people should have a conversation about early in a relationship. Do you want to be married? Not necessarily to me, not necessarily in 6 months or whenever, but do you have a marriage mindset? Are you someone who wants to be married, or are you someone who wants to just hunt or be hunted? It is what it is. But I think that's at least where you at least need to have the conversation. If both of us want to be married, then I think we can continue. Doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to marry each other, but at least we know that we both are looking for, we have the same goal in mind. And hopefully we are looking and have the same set of instructions on marriage when we're talking about all of this stuff. So,
but even the way that you ended that, right? It's still, to me, the issue is that we want to be married.
mm-hmm.
Do you want to be a husband?
Mm-hmm.
That's the issue. And so we always talk about being married, but not, because how do you be married?
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can be a husband because that's something that's measurable. I can measure out what a husband's responsibilities are supposed to be to his wife because they're laid out. I can talk about what a wife's responsibilities are supposed to be when they're laid out, right? But when we just said I want to be married, what does married look like? Like as a person. I know what a husband is supposed to look like as a person, but we want to be married, but we don't want to be husbands and wives. And for me, I always hold my thing, my hat right there, because we never do the work it takes to be successful in marriages. We could be in marriages, but I'm not just trying to be married. Like the goal was to be a husband. Now, did I say I was going to be a perfect husband at I do? No. Did I say you was going to be a perfect wife at I do? No. But we got to grow. But we don't grow and we don't take the chance. We try to make the marriage work, but we don't try to make us work. We don't try to make us better.
It's a status
I'm sorry.
thing.
I can sit on this one for a minute.
It's a status thing. We know that. I mean, anything outside of that, we're kidding ourselves.
Do you think that is? Well, anytime it's about status, you're going to have people chasing status. It's just probably something, whether it's marriage, whether it's a position in the church or position in a job or whatever. So yeah, I definitely get all that, man. I definitely appreciate everything so far. Sheesh, I thought we had a little bit more time. So what we'll do is we'll go through the final thoughts. I'll throw the final thoughts question up there, and then we'll have it, and we'll just go around. We'll start with Gaddy, and then I'll go, and then Coach finish it up, and then I'll come back and close out the show. But so the question would be this: I'll read it off, and then we can throw us up individually, just so everybody can see the question or whatever. So the final thought question for the night will be this. And then we'll get to the final thoughts again. So looking back on our lives, what's a question we think people should consider asking earlier? Now this, we talked about relationships, but I want to broaden it out if you want to. So whether that's in relationships, family, friendships, work, or even within themselves. So that'll be our final thought question for this afternoon.
Looking back on my own life, question I considered asking earlier. I do love Coach's approach to asking myself my questions first, right? In relationships, and I'm gonna say relationships as far as I'm gonna put friendship and romantic in it together. The question I wish I would have asked myself early on in my friendships and relationships is this relationship serving me spiritually and mentally, or is it hindering me spiritually and mentally? And the answer to that question determines how I move forward. I can't avoid that, because what doesn't serve you hinders you, right? And not in a servant mindset, but am I yoking myself to people that are pulling me away from my spiritual goals with the Most High? Am I yoking myself with people that want me to continue or to take on bad habits that's turning me into the opposite person of who the Most High is trying to make me out to be, right? Those are the questions. Like work questions, I guess the way I think as far as work, it's not other than at the point of negotiating salary, a pay scale. That all right. My only question is, what's my responsibilities? I read the job assignment, but I know you didn't want me to do all 16,000 things on this. So what is my responsibility in this team, right? That to me, that's it. But I'm not going to ask too many more questions on a job because I'm going to do what I need to do. So as when you ask me to complete an assignment or to take care of something, I'm going to do that because my responsibility on that job is to serve my supervisor, and we can't lose sight, and that is biblical. So anybody who don't like that answer, that your masters and supervisors, we got to understand what these synonyms are. I think we get so stuck on this word master. We go, right? It's your supervisor, right? That the person that is over me is my job. My responsibility is to be obedient to them. I'm not gonna linger too much on that, but I look at it and I just always go back to the, hey, how can I get this to align myself properly back up with what the Word of God is asking me to be? And so my relationships must mirror this, right? And my friendships must mirror this. And so if I'm in relationships with people who are trying to have me behave an opposite way, I need to cut that loose. That's all I got.
As I look back over my life, one of the questions that I would consider asking earlier on in life is just, what is the purpose of the relationship? So whether that relationship is with food, whether that relationship is with my health, whether that relationship is with my children, my grandchildren, my wife, my mother, my siblings, whoever it is, what is the purpose of said relationship? And I think that this is not to be confused with my purpose in life. However, I do think that if I do know my purpose in life, me finding a lot of those subcultures, or those sub purposes, um, may be easier to navigate or to kind of find out those things. But I do think that, at least for me, it took me a while to figure out my purpose in life. But I do think that it may be, I don't want to say simpler or easier, but I think that sometimes we can still attack some of those little things, when it comes to our purpose, and when it comes to life, when it comes to relationships and stuff like that. So what is the purpose of my relationship with this person at work? You know what I'm saying? Do I need to be friendly with them? Do I need to invite these people over the house? Where's the line? Where's the boundary? So I think, if I look back over my life, one of the questions that I would ask would be just, what is the purpose of some of the relationships that I have with things in my life? And some of those things are people. Some of those things may be hobbies, they may be careers or whatever, but what is the purpose of these different things that I have in my life and make up who I am as a person? And that's my final thought.
What's the question you think people should consider earlier? I kind of gave one earlier. To ask yourself the question, what is it that I'm called to do? And I think when we really get the answer to that, when that really comes full circle, you will realize that regardless of what that calling is, The end state of that calling is to serve someone else. It is to serve people. It is to serve them through whatever means that calling is. So now when I look at relationships, family, friendships, work, or even within themselves, family, well, our relationship exists so that we can serve someone else. It doesn't really matter what the relationship is. The relationship is always called to serve someone bigger than yourself. That's ultimately the meaning of life. That's how we get to the point of transcendence, where life itself has meaning. If everything I do points back to me, then I have not reached transcendence. I'm not even pursuing transcendence. I'm not even getting to the point to where meaning matters, existing matters, doing what I want to do matters, serving myself and me being quote unquote happy until happy as I know it changes or runs out. Every relationship that you are a part of serves a purpose. The people that I work with, the reason we have those relationships is because of that contract we signed. Now, if we pursue something outside of that, great, but it needs to have meaning. And a lot of times until we get there, those relationships outside of that, they become another empty vessel that we've involved ourselves in. So the question has to become, how does these relationships serve someone else? Because if these relationships don't serve someone else, I'm not necessarily just talking about the people in the relationship. It should be a symbiotic relationship between these two people, three people, whatever that looks like. But the relationship also must exist to serve outwardly. And if it's not serving outwardly, then now I have a responsibility to actually look at that relationship, analyze that relationship, either come to an understanding of why it does not, or sever that relationship because it has no meaning. Everything in life, for a life of purpose, have to have meaning behind it. And that's my final thought.
Gentlemen, I definitely appreciate all the words of wisdom, all the perspective, all the different thoughts, all of those different things. Definitely appreciate everybody who was here with us tonight in the chat, who had questions, who had comments, all of those different things, people that responded to the post, everything. Definitely appreciate everybody for being here this afternoon. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, that is the lineup. So if you can't read it, well, actually, I'll read it for you. So there you go. Every Friday, Hearts of Men podcast, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. The third Saturday of the month, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, is the Hearts of Women Coaches Corner every Tuesday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And on the fourth Saturday, 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. What is that? I can't see it. Got my glasses.
That's
I got my glasses.
reframing the image of relationships.
Reframing the image of relationships. Bam. There you go. So, gentlemen, do y'all have anything else before we roll out? Nope. That's it. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I hope y'all have a great weekend. And we will see y'all around like a donut. Good night.